In today's video, we are going to be looking at the 5 worst teams in the 2024 NFL Draft. The 5 teams who got the absolute worst classes, who I just think they did not capitalize on the picks they had. They may have made, maybe it's a good player, but the fit doesn't make sense. Things like that can ruin your draft. And, best player available ain't always the best route to go if that player may not get playtime on your team. Either way, before we get into this video, let me remind you to check out W.GG. Use code Shredder for not 10. I know it says 10, but not 10. 20% off your order. They've raised the amount. I need to get the new graphic fixed. My bad about that. But check out W.GG or click the link in the description to check out all their energy drinks and other products and get a discount by using code Shredder. Either way, let's get right into this video. We're going to start with our 5th worst team and work our way all the way up to the very worst team. And the 5th team is going to be the Miami Dolphins. I don't think they had a very good draft. First off, in the first round, you go get Chop Robinson. I don't mind the prospect, but I do not like the fit here in Miami at all. Chop Robinson is a 1-speed edge rusher, and that is go. Absolutely. Which is not a bad thing. You'd rather say whoa than sick 'em, but this guy doesn't have that much talent. Was he a first-round player? I think he can be, but not to a team like Miami, who already has Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Granted, they're both injury-prone. Granted, they're not the best edge rushers in the league. However, this guy's not going to play over them. Why would you take them when you have the O-line need that you have on your team currently and other things? There's plenty of other places you can go. O-line, D-line. Johnny Newton was on the board here. I think he's the best D-lineman in this class, personally. I just don't understand this pick whatsoever. And I just don't really get it, to be quite honest. It's a good player, just a bad fit to a team that I just don't particularly like. And then in the second round, Patrick Paul. This guy as well, not a bad pick. I don't dislike the pick in and of itself. The thing I don't like is the fact that he just, could have gone later. Probably. There was other tackles that were potentially better than him on the board. I don't mind Patrick Paul, but I don't see him as quite a mid-second round player. I see him as a back-end second round player, high-end third, but not the worst pick here. Jalen Wright, the running back from Tennessee, that's a fine pick. I don't mind that one at all. I don't know how much of the field he's going to see, considering they have Mostert and A-Chain, but you got a good, decent player there. In the 4th round. Muhammad Kamara, just not the best prospect edge rusher. The only prospect here that I really, really like is Malik Washington. I think singly the Malik Washington pick alone was the best pick of the entire 6th round. Malik Washington should not have been there. This was a very deep wide receiver class, and in other years, he would not be on the board in the 6th round. Very good receiver prospect. I think he could be a really good, maybe slot receiver for this team, and maybe be a potential on-field starter this coming year. I don't think that's out of the picture. In the 6th round, they pick up Patrick McMorris, and 7th round, Taj Washington. Neither great. I don't mind Taj Washington. The value in the 7th round is not too bad, but overall, just not the best get for me, in my opinion, from top to bottom. You get a couple good players, but just at positions that are not needed, and then on top of that, you don't really hit the positions that are needed. The offensive guard, the center, the defensive tackle, things like that. You kind of miss out on those, in my opinion. Moving on to our 4th team, the Carolina Panthers. Xavier Legette, not a bad wide receiver. Not my favorite one. Not a first-round talent, in my opinion. Very much a high second-ender. Granted, he was the last pick of the 1st round, so he's pretty much a second anyways, or pretty much he's right on that line. However, with A.D. Mitchell on the board, this makes no sense in my opinion. If you've stayed in my channel, you know I'm a massive A.D. Mitchell fan. I think that guy's going to be a stud, and I think they are, quite stupid for passing on him, to be quite honest. Not to mention, they traded up into the 1st round, 1 pick, to grab not just a receiver, but they missed out on the best receiver on the board and grab a receiver that probably would have been there 1 pick later. So whatever assets you gave up, you wasted, because I kind of think the Bills would not take Xavier Legette. I really don't. And then the 2nd round. This is kind of like the pick from the Dolphins, Chop Robinson. Jonathan Brooks. I like the player. I think he's solid. Not my number 1 back, but definitely not a bad back at all. A solid prospect. Jonathan Brooks, to me, with the injury it's a run-of-the-mill injury. You're not concerned with that. However, what you are concerned with is the fact that this guy, is he going to for sure play this year? And if that's the case, Is he going to kind of get beaten out because of his rehab by Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders? I would be concerned of that. Granted, the ceiling here for Jonathan Brooks is way better than anything you have on the roster currently. That alone does give me some, promise, but I'm just still not loving what it looks like so far. Trevin Wallace, really, really early here. Don't like that pick a whole lot. Think there was better linebackers on the board by far. At this point, Peyton Wilson was on the board, so I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if Junior Colson was on the board still, or if he had went just before this, but same round. Jeremiah Trotter on the board here. This one doesn't make any sense to me. Jatavian Sanders, that's solid value. I like getting him for Bryce Young. That's a solid pickup there. Definitely not upset about that one. Chow Wade Smith, Smith-Wade, whatever, Chow, I don't know how to say his name. Solid corner in the 5th round, fair value. Nothing too great, nothing too little there. Crumdy and Michael Barrett, nothing against them, just, back-end picks. They're not going to make the roster anyways. But mainly your problem here for Carolina is the fact that Xavier Legette and Jonathan Brooks, one, weren't the best player on the board at their position, in my opinion, and two, you traded up for Xavier Legette when there was a better receiver on the board, and you traded up to get a guy who probably would have been there, wasted an asset that wasn't probably that much, going to move back one spot. However, you still moved it, and then Trevin Wallace's pick was just rough, in my opinion. Moving into our third team, the Tennessee Titans. Latham at 1 overall, 7 overall, in the first round. Just not a great pick. I think there was multiple better tackles on the board, multiple better players on the board. Personally, Latham, I think, profiles to a guard. They need a tackle. They could theoretically move Skoronski back out to tackle and play Latham at guard. That would be fine, but why would you take a guard at the 7th overall pick? It's just a lot of question marks on this one here. I just don't get it. Okay, he's your favorite tackle prospect. Well, congratulations. He's gonna suck. He's not a good tackle in the NFL. He just won't be. He's not athletic enough. And then in the 2nd round, T'Vondre Sweat. I like T'Vondre Sweat a whole lot. I almost guarantee you he would have been there in the back of the 3rd round because of all the things that happened if it wasn't for Tennessee taking him here. They were the team that was gonna take him, if anybody, because they did meet with them and they did, do a few things. And he talked about his arrest a few months ago, and it went well in their eyes. That's awesome. That's great. I'm glad he owns up to it. I'm glad he took care of that. However, the one thing I am concerned about is the fact that you took him here when you could have had other players. I'm pretty sure Johnny Newton was still on the board here as well. Once again, the value has to line up and make sense, and it just simply doesn't. However, love the player. Once again, the pick's just not there. And, like I've said before, someone has to lose this draft. Someone has to win this draft. So they land here. Cedric Gray, I like the pick. That one's good. Fine with that one. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., pretty early in my opinion. I thought he was a, back of the draft kind of guy. 5th round's even a little high, I think. I'm not too high on him. We'll see what that one comes out to be. And the rest of their draft, Jalen Harrell and James Williams, just raw prospects. Not things that they're not going to make the roster. I would be shocked if either of them make the roster. And if they do, I'd be more concerned about the rest of the roster than I would be impressed with them, if that makes any sense. But either way, the players here. Latham, incredible stretch. I thought whoever drafted him would probably lose the 1st round, and, well, they kind of have. T'Vondre Sweat, like him, he would have been there later. There was a better player on the board. Cedric Gray, fine pick there, but that's just about it for them. Moving on to the 2nd worst. This one's going to go to Kansas City. Starting off in the 1st round, Xavier Worthy, an electric wide receiver who's better than a lot of people give him credit for. He's not just a 4.2 speed guy. He's not just a burner that's going to run downfield. He's not just John Ross, let me tell you. He has much better routes than your average just straight up speed guy does that enters the NFL draft. I think he's fine. However, I don't think anybody between 28 and 32 was going to take him outside of Kansas City. So why trade up for him? That's the problem here. The value of the trade up is not there. It just simply isn't. I don't think Xavier Worthy becomes a great wide receiver in the NFL. I think he's a number 3 receiver for probably his whole career. That's fine. Not everyone can be a superhero. But moving up to take this guy just doesn't make a ton of sense. And as I said, I don't think anybody was taking him. I don't think Baltimore was taking him. I don't think the Niners were taking him. I don't think Buffalo was taking him if they stuck in pick there. Just don't think it happens. I don't think that's it at all. In the round 2, Kingsley Suamataia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Solid tackle prospect, but the problem with him is just really raw. Granted, at this point in the draft, you're getting an upside, and that's fine. Late second round, he probably was about fitting there. That one I'm not too worried about. Jared Wiley off the board in the 4th round, and Jaden Hicks back-to-back. Just don't love those two. Not the best picks overall. I think there was better players at each position. Hunter Norzad, or I don't know how to say his last name. Not too familiar with him, to be quite honest with you, so I'm just going to skip past him. Kamal Hadden in the 6th. I do like that pick for sure. I think they got really good value there. I am a fan of Kamal Hadden for the most part. He's going to, have trouble in the NFL with some athletics things and, just his profile in the NFL. But I think he could be good, and the Chiefs would be the one who know how to correct his mistakes and get him on track. And CJ Hansen, it's a solid guard pick for a prospect who probably doesn't make the roster in the long run. But they're not. Really, the problem here is the first 2 picks being really raw project picks. You don't get any picks here none of these would I be shocked if they are starters really after this year. Xavier Worthy only is a starter on this team because their receiver room is incredibly atrocious, but he is wide receiver 3, and I guarantee you he doesn't move higher than that. I don't think he's all that great. And would he be wide receiver 3 if they had one more average receiver here? Not this year. He, at his peak, will be a wide receiver 3. That's solid. Right now, he's probably a wide receiver 4 or 5. Either way, that's our Chiefs' second worst team. And the worst team was definitely the Atlanta Falcons. This team, we have a lot to talk about here in Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr. I don't think he was a top 10 pick. I don't think he was good enough. I don't think the medicals, he hasn't had a couple problems in years. They graded out well. They tested well. That's awesome. There's a reason he stands still every game. Oh, but he ran a fast 40. Who cares? If you know anything about football, you should not care one bit about that. He doesn't play with his legs in a game, period. He's not going to play with his legs. So the 40 time was the most irrelevant thing you've ever seen in an NFL Pro Day. He has a good arm, not a great arm. Because, he can throw it probably farther than anyone in this draft. However, his accuracy suffers heavily. On his deep routes, you can look this up. He had probably, out of the top 6 guys, I'm talking Nix, McCarthy, Williams, May, and Daniels, and himself, he had the worst completion percentage 20 yards down the field because he's not accurate down the field. Yes, he can throw the ball farther than all the rest of them, but if you can't put it on your receiver, it doesn't matter. Rukaroro, very similar thing. You get a guy who's not the best player on the board, a far stretch. I don't understand that one at all. Period. End of story. This guy is just not great at all. Period. Not to mention with Michael Penix, I'm going to go back for a second. You could have had your choice at defensive player to try to get this team built up for the future and trying to win games right now, heavy, because you're not a favorite in your division. Sorry, bud. Let me tell you something. The Bucs are a favorite right now, especially after this draft. Then, because this tells me that your front office is not the smartest group. Then Braylon Trice in the 3rd round. He not the greatest edge prospect. I think he'll grade out fine in the NFL. I think he will be, a rotational guy, an average NFL player. That's fine. Not everybody can be a superstar. You need your average guys because they fill your roster up. It's just you took him in the 3rd round. That's fine. Whatever. I don't think it's the best pick. I don't think it's the worst pick. Brandon Dorlus, not a great pick. I think just not the best player overall. Not a fan of that one. J.D. Bertrand, I am a fan of. I do like that pick a lot. Fits the team well. The team needs the scheme they run. I do think J.D. Bertrand was a really good linebacker pick here. However, I just, that's about the only good pick they've made so far. Jason McClelland, it's a running back in the 6th round. Congratulations. Don't really know what to tell you. Running backs, you never know with them. Some of them end up great. Some of them end up irrelevant. And with that said, it's just you don't know. Casey Washington and Zion Logue, both fine picks, but nothing standing out here. Really, their best pick overall was J.D. Bertrand. Other than that, I don't think 1st and 2nd round, Atlanta fans, I'm sorry, you should not be happy. You took Michael Penix, who has already been told that he has no chance of starting within the next year or two because they're not giving Kirk any trouble with him. So why did you take him? He's already 23, 24 years old. He will be this year. And why? That makes no sense. You're going to start this guy for the first time when he's 26 years old? That makes a lot of sense, guys. No. If you're going to take a guy to sit, take J.J. McCarthy. Take, I don't know, go get Drake May. They're young. This guy, he's going to be retiring age by the time he's actually getting to play. He's also not the best prospect on the board, in my opinion. Just a bad pick. Not even to mention, you paid Kirk Cousins to come in there and not, to now you've made him mad. Great. What are you doing? That's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Who was the worst team that got out of this year's draft? And the best 5 teams will be coming very soon, so stay tuned for that and make sure you subscribe. Either way, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.